people of all ages across the United States and in other countries around the world have been seen to spend significantly less time outside now than they did in the past. Children from ages 8 to 12 reportedly spend 3 times the amount of time online, on phones, tablets, computers, or TV as they do outside enjoying nature and playing. On average, youths from ages 6 to 17 spend only 7 minutes outside daily. And while adults do tend to spend more time outside than children, they still average only 30 minutes a day. Failure to spend enough time in the outdoors can have negative effects on both your mental and physical health. Not getting outside enough is linked to increased symptoms of anxiety, depression, and ADHD, and is also associated with increased likelihood of mental illness by 55%. It's also associated with something called nature deficit disorder, which can have the effects of increasing those anxiety and depression system and makes you more susceptible to mental health disorders. It also leads to higher levels of the stress hormone, cortisol, which impacts your feelings of stress and anxiety over time, and is associated with increased levels of loneliness, mood disturbances, and fatigue. Not only are there negative effects to not spending enough time outdoors, but those who don't get enough time in nature also miss out on its positive effects. Spending time outside is known to reduce feelings of stress, as well as symptoms of anxiety and depression. And stress relief can help prevent higher risks of chronic disease, chronic illnesses, and mortality from said issues. It is known to increase feelings of mindfulness, wonder, and positivity, and helps regulate the sympathetic nervous system. And when placed outside near schools, time outside helps promote cognitive development in children, as well as brain function, and helps restore the attention span. It is also associated with higher levels of creativity and overall happiness. People who spend more time outdoors are also known to have more social personalities and have an easier time making friends and talking with others. Yet another reason to spend more time outside is that exposure to green spaces is an effective coping mechanism for chronic mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, and PTSD. There are 4 main contributing factors to people spending less time outside. One of the main ones being lack of access, which becomes an increasingly large problem as cities get bigger and bigger and the green spaces in them disappear. People in urban areas tend to have way less access to green spaces than those who live in rural areas, for example. The next major barrier is time constraints, mainly due to school and work commitments. Teenagers, in particular, tend to have a lot of less time due to homework and jobs, as well as time needing to be spent at school, and adults who work full-time or several jobs have very little time to get outside and get moving, which prevents them from spending enough time outside. The next major barrier is technology. As technology expands, we are less and less motivated to go outside because we have access to so much information at our fingertips. We have access to shows, games, books, and so many other things that draw our attention away from the world outside of our windows. The last major reason is a lack of encouragement. People do not often see things that encourage them to go outside, get active, and spend time in nature rather than on their devices, working, or at school, which prevents a lot of people from having the motivation to go outside and spend time in those natural areas. To address this issue, I worked with the local high school to create a more student-friendly outdoor space on campus by building benches for anyone to use, anytime, that overlook the most natural areas we have. Now, every student at SPASH has access to comfort outside, and we can encourage them to spend more time outdoors than inside and on their devices. It's a great space to relax, hang out with friends, and overall just enjoy the sun. And so even as little as 5 minutes outside has been seen to calm the sympathetic nervous system, relieve stress, and decrease levels of the stress hormone cortisol, even in city environments. I'm also able to advertise around school the benefits of being outside and the new space that they have available to them. While this may only have small-scale effects for now, it is possible to implement similar things in other places, whether schools, churches, workplaces, anywhere in the country or around the world. I now present the story of this project's implementation. Before any of this building started happening, we went and we purchased supplies, I researched designs, and we consulted with the school about what size area we had to work with. After that, I did some of the work on my own, as you can see in this video. Lots of cutting and measuring and everything else, organizing. But I also had lots of help from a variety of people. My biggest help was my father, Jason. He's the one who taught me to use power tools years ago and helped me out with using them now. He was a wonderful person I could talk to for advice, suggestions on the best ways to do things, and for help when I wasn't strong enough or was unsure of how to do things. I cannot thank him enough for all the work he did in helping me do this. As I made the benches, I started out with cutting the wood and then sorting it into piles for each bench, as well as labeling every part for when it was going to be needed. The instruction I had labeled everything with letters in the alphabet, so that was how I went along with it as well. This is some of the piles of wood I had after all the organizing. As you can see, it looks like a lot. There were a lot of pieces to these benches, but it was really enjoyable for me to make them. And I will be attaching the link to the designs I used in case anyone wants to repeat my process. This is my father. Here he's helping me cut some angled cuts on wood. As you can see, I'm marking out approximate lines while our saw is set to the angle we want. It was hard for me to do this on my own, as I wasn't completely sure how to cut angles on the circular saw. It wasn't something I had done before. But I would really appreciate all the help my father gave me during this part. This is a closer look at the tool we used to cut pocket holes in the wood, which is how we attached most of the pieces for this project. We also reinforced all of our attachments with wood glue, which we used clamps, as we were doing, as you can see in this picture. Each board has glue on the side, and we screwed in the pocket holes as well. This is how we did the process of drilling the pocket holes in the pieces beforehand. I prefer having them prepped before we do anything else. So we had all our holes drilled before we started putting the benches together. Well, you can see my dad helping me with this batch. There were a lot I did on my own, as it's a relatively simple process once you get the hang of it. In this video, you can see my friend Madeline, who was also a great help as we put these benches together, by volunteering her time to help me do all this work, which she had experience doing some woodwork before with her own family. She greatly helped me put this together in a much more efficient way. Without her, I don't think I could have done this as well. Here we are putting the seat flats on, so the boxes are the base for the seats, and the boards we're screwing on are what you would be sitting on. It was an interesting process. We did use glue on these as well, but here you can see after we put parts of the frames and the seats together. That is my dog, and that is my brother Liam helping me out. Liam is a Boy Scout, and he has some experience with power tools, and I was really grateful for him to volunteer his time to help me. Screwing all the parts for the base together was a little difficult. Luckily, I'm not a very tall person, so I could get some of the harder to reach spots. Here you can see us gluing in and screwing on the top of the benches. That is my friend Bella, who also was a wonderful help during this entire project. Moving on, we're sanding these benches down. This is after we've glued and screwed in all of the backboards, and we are now starting the sanding process. The two girls you just saw were my cousins, Maddie and Samantha. They were amazing. I really appreciate their help sanding, as that was a long process for two very large benches. We had to go through several grits of sandpaper, and luckily we had just enough sanders for everybody. Here you can see me finishing up some sanding and starting to oil down the wood to make it water resistant, as these are going to be used outdoors. I would always advise using a mask when both sanding and everything else. Safety always comes first, just as a fair warning. If anyone would like to reproduce this project, I would be so happy. I'm really hopeful that we can make a big difference for the people in my community and other communities. Thank you so much. I'm Toren Anderson, and this is my woodwork project.